The stereotypical image of a witch with a black cat comes from the time of the witch hunts in the Middle Ages. As mentioned in the previous video, types of animal spirit guides, most of the people accused of witchcraft during the Inquisition were outcasts of society who lived closer to nature than to the social norm. It figures that cats would be the friends of such quote-unquote witches because cats are wild animals who are happy to commune with humans, who treat them nicely. While it's also true that dogs are bred from wolves, it's a much longer and more complicated evolutionary process to domesticate dogs from wolves. Cats, on the other hand, basically have the choice of whether or not to domesticate themselves. It's the cat's uncanny way of being sovereign, mysterious, and walking with a paw in both worlds that causes some to love them and some to be deeply disturbed by them. For today, let's focus on just 3 of the lessons that a cat can teach a witch. How to balance domestic life with nature connection, how to balance cooperation and individual freedom in relationships, and how to balance darkness and light in your life and spiritual practice. What's weirdly wonderful about cats is that they are possibly the only animal that can be both domestic and feral within the same lifetime. Most animals are either totally wild or fully domesticated, but a cat can be born into the wild and adapt to domestic life, or can be born domestically and adapt to survive in the wild. What's even more fascinating about that is the self-same cat can wake up in your bed, have a nice man-made breakfast, and then go off on her own to rule an entire outdoor ecosystem, and then be back in time for supper. Cats are also some of the only animals who can choose to be nocturnal or not. They have no fear of darkness or mystery. They have the option of living the nightlife or the 9 to 5. It's pretty much up to the individual cat and his or her lifestyle. And perhaps most enchanting of all, cats do not give a crap what we expect of them or want them to do. They dance to the rhythm of their own drum, and these are all of the same characteristics that many witchy types would attribute to themselves. So it makes sense that cats are such a popular pagan pet. A paw in both worlds. The indoor versus outdoor life for cats is kind of a controversial subject among cat people. While some feel that it is safest for cats as well as for the ecosystem to keep kitties exclusively indoors, others, such as myself, feel reluctant to lock their cats up on a permanent basis, feeling that it would deprive them of their natural birthright of freedom. As with all things along my journey, I take a middle path on this subject. I feel that it's important for cats to have some semblance of access to both comfort and safety of the indoors, as well as to the natural world outside. How much freedom is given to them is left to the discretion of each individual cat-human relationship, but it is a core value of mine to at least let cats experience some level of fresh air, sunshine, and mingling with nature. That can be anywhere from full access to the outdoors 24/7 through a cat flap, to simply going for a walk on a leash if your cat will let you do that, or chilling on a fenced-in patio. Cats have a balance of wild and domestic nature, and I feel that it's important to nurture both sides for a balanced life. Cats can be our link to the spirit of nature. It's through observing my cats both domestically and outdoors that I've learned to better understand my place in nature. Cats and witches are similar in that way. We function in the mundane human society while also living within the worlds of nature, connecting with the elements, and the deeper spirituality of the cycles of the universe. It can be a delicate dance at times, and it requires a strong connection to intuition. My cats and I have lived in a variety of different environments over the past nearly 2 decades together, and I've experienced the gambit of important decision-making to maintain our health, safety, and sanity. It requires just the sort of balance taught by the wisdom of the Temperance card of the tarot. With cats being such independent thinkers, there must be an open dialogue of communication in order to maintain a healthy relationship with them. There have been times when I felt that it would be most convenient to keep them indoors, and they clearly communicated that they were simply not having it. I was forced to step outside of my comfort zone and give them their freedom somehow, while also being the responsible parent in the situation and making decisions to keep them as safe as possible. During an early adulthood coming of age, I lived with a difficult family member who wanted to keep them exclusively outdoors, but it was not safe, healthy, or balanced to do so. I had to take control of my finances and my living situation in big ways in order to keep my cats happy and healthy. Being responsible for their lives has uplifted me out of my perceived limitations and created a better life for myself and my fur children. We've grown up together and mutually benefit from having each other as life partners. The personalities of cats can teach us how to bring balance back into our own lives as well. My cat Trinity, for example, fully embodied what it meant to be shamelessly relaxed. She reminded me not to be a workaholic. They can also teach us to reconnect with nature or the spirit world. Neko, for example, always got frustrated with me when I was spending too much time running errands or being too plugged into technology. She would yell at me relentlessly until I caved and took some self-care time in meditation, yoga, or observing nature. When I did those things, she was happy and content and basked in the ritual with me, rather than complaining at my distance from the finer things in life. The balance between companionship and independence. One of my most exciting experiences of cat parenthood has been taking in Mowgli, my quote-unquote nephew. My sister found him as a very young kitten in a bad situation in her New York City alleyway. Despite not being a cat person and having to keep this rather wild cat exclusively indoors in a small apartment at the time, she rescued him and did her best to care for him. Knowing him was a deeply spiritual experience for my sister, but after 5 years of having a hard time juggling her fast-paced lifestyle with caring for a cat, she sent him to live with me. Now, at the time, I had a large yard in a cat-safe suburban neighborhood, and this would be Mowgli's first time being set free outdoors. The experience of rewilding a creature who has the heart of a wild animal, but who's been cooped up for most of his life, was an extremely profound experience to witness. Where my old lady cats were accustomed to freedom, preferring to simply sunbathe on the porch, this little boy kitty was excited to be experiencing this freedom for the first time. His curiosity and bravery were very inspiring, and it was really interesting to see how naturally his wild nature began to blossom from within him. He went from being scared and curious to being confident and instinctual, and these were messages that I really needed to receive at that time in my own life. Cats love to be pet, cuddled, and pampered, but they also want to be left to their own devices when they're in an independent mood. It was this cat medicine that helped me to find my independence from a limiting codependent relationship at that time. The balance of darkness and light. Having indoor-outdoor cats has taught me a lot about the balance of darkness and light in nature, as well as within ourselves. When I was a little girl, I allowed myself to imagine cats as herbivores, but it didn't take long at all for me to learn through them that not everything in nature is vegetarian. What seemed so strange to me was that the same creature who was so gentle and loving towards me could also be a vicious monster with a thirst for blood for smaller animals. I still ponder the weirdness that cats and humans are two of the only animals that hunt for sport. As a vegetarian, I'm generally against hunting and violence of all kinds, but if I'm going to derive my spirituality from nature, that means I have to face the fact that humans, like nature, can be both cruel and kind. Cats are not afraid of the dark, and their enhanced night vision is also a metaphor for our ability as witches to see into other realms. Your personal definition of other realms can be anything from communicating with spirits to simply seeking to know thyself from the dark unknown of the subconscious mind. By basking luxuriously in the sunlight and then creeping out bravely into the darkness of the night, cats remind us to enjoy both the sun and the moon. By exploring the deeper mysteries of life, we also have a deeper appreciation for indulging in the simple pleasures of the easier things in life. To gift the world with light work, we must also introspect through shadow work. They are two sides of the same coin. This episode is merely scratching the surface of a very vast array of lessons that we can learn from communing with cats. Get it? Scratching the surface, cats, scratching. Anyway, what are your thoughts about the topics we touched upon in this conversation? I would love to know what your experience has been with familiars, with cats, or with communing with nature as a witch. I invite you to let me know in the comments, and I also invite you to join our growing magical community over on Patreon. There, I post customized reflection prompts for each of the new and full moons of the year, as well as for the themes of each Sabbath on the Wheel of the Year. You get access to beautiful printable writing pages for your spiritual journal, grimoire, or book of shadows, and you get to join in the discussion with myself and other magical mavens as we navigate the plant, tend, harvest, compost cycle together. If you're ready to start or simplify your magical practice while getting grounded in how to actually work with the seasons, moon phases, astrology, and divination tools to experience more fulfillment in your everyday life, then the Writing Witch Patreon community is where you want to be. To learn more, go to writingwitch.com and click on Patreon from the main menu, or just go to www.patreon.com/thewritingwitch. See you there! So I've decided to kind of combine a lot of that together and apparently hang out with a cat. Alright, get down. It's been my own close friends. It's been this cat.
The crows have done amazingly well and really surprisingly well. We didn't expect them to be this good at these kind of problems. They've performed at the highest levels with tasks requiring technical intelligence out of pretty much any animal on the planet.
Of course, November Eve is by no means the only name for the extremely popular celebration which takes place on October 31st. The most common name for this is, you guessed it, Halloween. Halloween is one of the best loved seasonal celebrations in the world. But where did this strange secular holiday come from? And how can we incorporate it into our nature-based spirituality practice? Let's begin by addressing some of the most common names for the celebration on October 31st. Alongside Halloween, you may also be familiar with the terms Samhain, All Saints' Day, Eve of All Saints, All Hallows' Day, All Hallows' Eve, and even Hallowmass, just to name a few. But what do all of these words actually mean? Well, Halloween as we know it today is an extremely eclectic holiday, gathering ideas from myths and legends from all over the world and different parts of history. Why is there always a cat? What? 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 What?